So I've been reading this article. It's called "Time to Kill Agile" or "Agile is Dead, Long Live Agility." Really good article if you're into sort of agile workflows and things like that. It's definitely worth checking out. But what I wanted to speak about was submitting talk proposals to conferences. Now, I've not had much success. I've spoken at one main conference. I'll be speaking this year at jQuery UK, which I'm very excited about. But I've submitted a lot of talk proposals, and I should have kept track of them all. I started keeping track of them in a gist now, like the actual proposal that I send and where I send it to and sort of the progress of it. But I've probably sent a good, at least 20, maybe 25 talk proposals, and I could never tell whether, they weren't good proposals, they weren't relevant, or it's just because that I'm not an experienced speaker. Now, I don't think it's because I'm not an experienced speaker, because there are plenty of conferences like JSConf that promote the idea of, they don't have, or JSConf US, and I think JSConf EU, I think everyone else follows the same pattern, is that they don't have returning speakers. So it's always new speakers, with the exception of, I think, of maybe 1 year they had like a reunion of speakers. Anyway, regardless, I don't think it's because I'm not an experienced speaker. It's either the subjects I want to talk about, or it's the way that I write proposals. So I put a gist up, I'll put a link down in the description of my talk proposals, and if you want to have a look at them and comment on them, and if you're a conference organizer, or if you're someone who's picked talks before, or if you're someone who's written a lot of talks, I know there's some great articles out there by Rockbot and Rebecca Murphy, and there's some videos out there about writing abstractions and things like that for talks, and I'm not too sure why. So I have submitted some talks this year. A lot of them are based on Meteor.js. I've got like a Meteor.js presentation I've been working on, which I know is gaining some popularity in terms of the framework, and has been spoken about at conferences before. And it's something that I'm really into. I'm really passionate about Meteor.js. I think it opens up application development and building Node applications to a much wider audience, because it's really easy to grok, and I think it's a great technology, or a great bundling together of technologies. So I mean, I'm only ever going to talk about what I'm passionate about, in terms of I'm only going to submit talks to conferences that I'm passionate about. So yeah, and then I've got a Gulp presentation that I've been working on, which is kind of ironic because I spent most of last year going to user groups and meetups, and I spoke at SideView in Brighton last year about Grunt. But I think Gulp is a really, really good tool, really, really useful, something that I've adopted into my workflow. So there's a Gulp presentation. There's another one that I've been working on, and it's called Everything You've Wanted to Know About the Command Line But Were Afraid to Ask, because I see this intrepid fear of the command line, when people use a lot of GUI tools, and there are some great GUI tools out there. I checked out the new CoKit release, and it's amazing and it's beautiful, but you have you have this amazing tool, which is the command line, and it's really powerful, and there are some really, really great command line tools out there. And the minute you get over this fear of the command line, you open yourself up to be able to use these amazing tools. So I'm sort of working on what the abstract is for that talk. I think it will be useful for conferences that are aimed more at designers than developers, but I'm not too sure. I need to sort of give it a trial run and work out what I want to talk about in that. But so I have submitted some talks. I've already had 3 declines so far this year. They were all for the Meteor talk, so I'm trying to figure out whether that's because no one wants to hear about Meteor. Maybe it's too young of a technology, but Grunt was like 0.34 when I started talking about that. So I'm assuming it must be my abstract in the way that I come across and the way that I speak. So part of doing these blogs is me trying to display that I want to talk about these things, and I also want to film these things and talk about them honestly. So yes, I don't think today I'll be receiving any declines, but anytime I receive a decline, maybe I'll make a little blog about it and talk about the actual abstract and the conference. This is not against any conferences. I understand that conferences get flooded with call for paper requests, and they've got to pick so very few, and they've got to build up this, they've got to curate this experience for their people who are paying for tickets. So maybe it's just that. Not too sure. We'll see how it goes.